In today's video, you'll learn how to Dockerize an ExpressJS application. We'll take a hands-on approach and include some bonus security principles which should enable you to take your container all the way to production. I'm not going to go into detail about setting up Docker on your local machine, so I'm assuming you already have that in place. Check in the description for a video outlining how to do this before starting here. The first order of business is to create an example ExpressJS project. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'll use an npm package called ExpressGenerator, which is provided by the ExpressJS team. Okay, so now we have an Express app to work with. I would expect that you have your own app that you're wanting to Dockerize, so just make a note of the start command for your own project. In our case, it's npm start. This will start our demo app on port 3000. Now we need to create a Dockerfile for our project. The Dockerfile is a text file that contains all the commands necessary to assemble a Docker image. The first thing we need to do with our Dockerfile is to find a root image to use. In this tutorial, we'll use the official image from NodeJS, which should contain everything we need to get up and running. You can specify at this point to use the version of Node most appropriate for your project. In my case, right now it's Node 18. So in our Dockerfile, we'll specify we want to use the Node 18 base image. Next, we'll specify a work dir, which sets the working directory for other instructions we're going to provide in our Dockerfile. Now, we'll copy our package.json and package.lock.json into our image so we can install the necessary dependencies for our project. If you're using Yarn to manage your project dependencies, ensure that you copy the yarn.lock file at this point too. Now we can bundle our app source code into the image. If you're using TypeScript, you can just copy the generated code at this point, for example your dist folder. The demo app that we're using here binds to port 3000 by default, so we need to expose this. And finally, we specify a command or entry point for our container, which we'd like to run when the container starts. Let's use entry point. Command sets default parameters which can be overridden from the CLI when the container is running. Entry point cannot be overridden. There are also two options when specifying a command to run, the shell command form or the executable command form. Both yield the same result, but the shell command form requires every execution to be processed through the default shell for the image, which can lead to performance bottlenecks. Each instruction in the Dockerfile adds a layer to the image which increases the size of the resulting image and potentially incorporates sensitive credentials into it. Say for example we required a private npm package in our application. We would need to include tokens to access this package and then delete them following package install. This however wouldn't remove the tokens from the build image, they would still be contained in a previous layer. To stop this from happening, we can use Multistage Builds. A multistage build uses multiple from instructions in our Dockerfile, essentially copying the results of the previous build to a new one without the additional layers used to construct the previous image. First of all, we'll alias our first build and modify the initial build directory. Next, we'll add a new base image for our final build and copy the results of our previous build into the new one. Okay, so now we have completed our simple Dockerfile, we can build it with Docker build. To make it simpler to run, we'll also tag the container. And finally, we'll use our tag name to run the container locally. The p flag tells the Docker daemon to port forward a port on our host machine to the container so we can access this externally. And there we go. In this series I will be outlining how to publish this image to an external repository and how to deploy it in various places. Please consider subscribing and hit the bell icon to be notified when these tutorials become available. Keep learning and above all keep coding. Thank you so much for watching, till next time.